Good evening. If I could have the first group of people come up. Chair Harris, Jeffrey Haynes, Vince Bays, sorry if I'm mispronouncing, Bays, Will Rogers, Shirian Apin, apologies, and Francois Carrier. Mr. Harris, Jeffrey Haynes, Vince Bays, Will Rogers, Shirian Apin, and Francois Carrier. Come on down.
Okay, please. Yeah. Use those for the haircuts when you're kids. Yeah.
Okay. Good evening. We are live in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Natalie Fanny Gonzalez. I'm the Council President in Montgomery County. Welcome to our public hearing regarding the Clarksburg Gateway Sector Plan. This is agenda item number 1, and it's the only one on today's agenda. It's a public hearing on the Clarksburg Gateway Sector Plan. Councilmember Friedson is joining us virtually this evening. You can see him right there. Say hello, everybody. A planning housing, I was kidding. A planning, housing, and parks committee work session is scheduled for February the 2nd, 2026. Those wishing to submit material for the council's consideration should do so by the close of business on January 26, 2026. As a reminder of our public hearing testimony guidelines, your comments must be limited to issues relevant to the public hearing topic for which you are testifying and are appropriate for a public meeting. You will hear a tone when your time is up, and we appreciate everyone abiding by their allotted time, which is only 3 minutes. I will say it only once. No clapping, no booing, no disrespect, not interrupting absolutely anybody. Okay, that was clear. With that, we're going to start with Mr. Artie Harris from the Planning Board.
Can you hear me okay? Okay, great. Good evening. For the record, I'm Artie Harris, Chair of the Montgomery County Planning Board. Council President Fanny Gonzalez and members of the council, thank you for this opportunity to share a few brief comments this evening. Last month, the Planning Board approved the Planning Board draft the Clarksburg Gateway Sector Plan and transmitted to you for the public review process. This plan focuses on the undeveloped areas of Clarksburg, east of I-270 and west of Frederick Road, areas that have seen little change for more than 30 years and now present significant opportunities for thoughtful, sustainable growth. The Clarksburg Gateway Sector Plan provides an opportunity to reimagine an area with substantial untapped potential. Its recommendations advance a forward-looking vision that supports economic vitality, environmental stewardship, and inclusive growth. The Planning Board's recommended plan builds on the pillars of Thrive Montgomery 2050 and seeks to make Clarksburg a more connected, complete community, one that balances future development with the protection of existing forests, streams, and other sensitive areas. The plan proposes creating critical connections, encouraging strategic infill development, and strengthening the greater Clarksburg's community's role as the central node envisioned far back as the Wedges and Corridor Master Plan. For some, Clarksburg represents the last county node along the I-270 corridor. For others, it functions as a true gateway into the county and the agricultural reserve. By shaping this gateway sector plan into a complete community, we can reduce environmental impacts through more walkable neighborhoods and limit pressure for additional sprawl into surrounding ecological areas. The plan also recommends key infrastructure, including completing Observation Drive and preserving the proposed I-270 interchange, which together can help spur economic employment opportunities and strengthen the public transit network serving this area. We look forward to working with the Planning, Housing, and Parks Committee and with the full council in the months ahead as you review and consider adoption of the plan. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Jeffrey Haynes?
Thank you. Good evening, council members and residents of Clarksburg. My name is Jeffrey Haynes. I'm chairman of the Historic Preservation Commission. And on behalf of the commission, I'm here to express our strong support of the overall vision and objectives of the Clarksburg Gateway Sector Plan. The plan's emphasis on creating complete communities, expanding housing opportunities, strengthening economic vitality, improving transportation connectivity, enhancing public amenities, and protecting environmental resources aligns closely with the county's longstanding planning goals and the Commission's commitment to sustainable place-based development. The HPC is particularly supportive of the sector's planned effort to reimagine underutilized sites as community assets. And we believe the former ComSat Laboratories property presents one of the most important opportunities in the planned area to achieve these goals. Adaptive reuse of ComSat Laboratories directly advances the sector plan's objectives by strengthening Clarksburg's identity, supporting economic development, promoting environmental sustainability, and helping create a true community center. The building scale, design, and campus setting offers exceptional flexibility for future mixed-use, institutional, cultural, residential, and community-serving uses that would provide long-term public benefit and private investment alike. The ComSat Laboratory holds exceptional historic and architectural significance. It served as a research and development arm of the world's first commercial satellite communications corporation, playing a central role in the evolution of global telecommunications and of Montgomery's emergence as a technology corridor. The preservation and adaptive reuse of concept also aligns strongly with the county climate and sustainability goals. Retaining, repurposing the existing structure preserves embodied carbon, avoids large-scale demolition waste, and supports compact development patterns envisioned by Thrive Montgomery. These benefits complement the sector plan's focus on responsible growth and environmental stewardship. The Commission recognizes that adaptive reuse of large specialized buildings requires vision and patience. The Commission history, however, demonstrates that landmark properties once deemed obsolete, such as the Pension Building, now the National Building Museum in Washington, D.C., the Power Plant Building in Baltimore, and the AFI Silver Theater in Silver Spring, to name a few, have become the region's most successful civic, cultural, and economic anchors. ComSat Laboratories represents a comparable opportunity for Clarksburg. Accordingly, the Historic Preservation Commission recommends preserving the main entry tower, lobby, west-facing corridor, and the original laboratory wings, allowing for flexible adaptive reuse that supports the sector plan long-term vision. In conclusion, the HPC believes that preservation and progress are not competing goals, but they are mutually reinforcing. With thoughtful planning and leadership, ComSat Laboratories can become Clarksburg's most distinctive destination and a lasting anchor for a complete, connected, and sustained community. Thank you.
Thank you. Please make sure it's only 3 minutes. Mr. Vince Bice?
Good evening, President Fanny Gonzalez and members of the County Council. My name is Vince Biazzi with Lurch, Shirley & Brewer, and I'm speaking on behalf of the Housing Opportunities Commission of Montgomery County and Pioneer Hills, LLP, the owners of 22600 Observation Drive and 13099 and 13101 Shawnee Lane. I will refer to these three parcels collectively as the Garnkirk properties tonight, all of which are located within the Clarksburg Gateway Sector Plan boundary. I'm here tonight to propose a modest implementation-focused amendment for the Garnkirk properties that preserves the sector plan's vision. This request does not increase height, it does not increase the commercial intensity, and does not introduce any new or unanticipated uses. It simply aligns the residential intensity with the sector plan's housing objectives so that the zoning applied through the SMA can deliver the housing and land use outcomes contemplated for this area. As you consider the sector plan and the accompanying SMA, we respectfully request that the Garnkirk properties be zoned for a maximum residential density of 1 FAR rather than 0.75 FAR. Specifically, we request that the Garnkirk properties be zoned as CRT1 C0.25 R1 H65 rather than the Planning Board draft recommendation for C0.25 R0.75. There are three practical reasons for this request. First, these are not edge or transition parcels. The Garnkirk properties sit at the interior of the Clarksburg Gateway planning area, and the sector plan framework directs growth here to strengthen the community's housing supply and leverage existing infrastructure efficiently. Specifically, this change in residential density from 0.75 to 1 FAR ensures that the zoning aligns with the planning intent for this location within the sector plan boundary. Second, the Garnkirk multifamily parcel located at 22600 Observation Drive has long been planned and entitled for residential uses, including affordable housing. While we recognize the council is not bound by prior approvals, applying CRT 0.75 here has the practical effect of reducing residential capacity from approximately 180 units down to approximately 60 multifamily units. As such, mapping the property at CRT1 would better align with the established residential context while remaining consistent with the sector plan scale. Stepping back, CRT1 is also compatible with the broader Gateway Sector Plan zoning framework. Nearby areas are planned for comparable or greater residential intensity, particularly closer to Gateway Center Drive and related activity nodes. Our request allows the Garnkirk properties to contribute appropriately to the housing framework that the sector plan is trying to achieve. For these reasons, we respectfully request that the council adopt CRT1 C0.25 R1 H65 for the Garnkirk properties. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Thank you. Mr. Will Rogers.
Good evening, Council President and members of the County Council. My name is Will Rogers, and I'm with the law firm of Bregman, Berbert, Schwartz, and Gilday, and we represent JMP Capital Management and Avanti Properties Group, which are the contract purchaser and developer of the Linthicum property. The Linthicum property consists of about 78 acres and is the second largest developable parcel in this plan. A fast-growing population has left the Clarksburg area in great need of more housing and more housing variety. JNP Avanti has years of experience with residential development in this region and is excited to bring that expertise to the Clarksburg community with a proposed neighborhood of about 700 units. This will help provide the variety of housing that Clarksburg is currently lacking, with a mix of multifamily, townhome, duplex, and single-family units all in one neighborhood. The completion of Observation Drive Extended has also been identified as a major goal of this plan. JMP Avanti played a pivotal role in influencing the draft plan's proposed realignment of the portion of Observation Drive Extended that traverses the Linthicum property. And JMP Avanti has already engaged with MCDOT to enter into a road participation agreement that would make the construction of Observation Drive Extended happen much quicker than would otherwise be possible through the CIP process. And with my remaining time, I would like to highlight one area of the plan where the council should stick with the planning board recommendation and one area where more work is needed. The planning board was correct to eliminate the staff recommendation for a 200-foot residential setback from I-270. On the Linthicum property alone, JMP Avanti estimates that that would have resulted in roughly 1/4 less residential units delivered. And that loss of units would undermine both the feasibility of the project and JMP Avanti's ability to enter into the road participation agreement that I mentioned earlier. As the planning board recognized, between the 75-foot right-of-way dedication for I-270, the 50-foot forested buffer included in the plan, and the sound wall that will be required if needed under the noise ordinance, there is adequate buffer without that additional setback. I also want to mention that the recommendations in the Linthicum neighborhood section of the draft plan that relate to the Constellation Parks network. Since the planning board's approval of the draft plan, JMP Avanti has worked with Montgomery Parks to provide a specific location and concept plan for active park space on the Linthicum property. Our written testimony provides the concept plan for the proposed park, along with requested revisions to the Linthicum neighborhood section of the plan. We shared our proposed revisions with Montgomery Parks in advance of today's public hearing and received confirmation of their support. We hope that the council will consider incorporating this language to provide more certainty as JMP Avanti plans ahead for the development review process.
Thank you. Mr. Sharon Eben?
Good evening, and thank you for coming to Clarksburg to listen to residents and others on this sector plan. To start with, thank you again for the opportunity to provide the following comments on the public hearing draft of the Clarksburg Gateway Sector Plan. On behalf of Coalition for Up County, I'm also a resident of Clarksburg for the last 22 years and been engaged with Clarksburg Civic Association as well. The 1994 Clarksburg Master Plan laid out a bold vision for the last corridor city in Montgomery County to be developed with a thriving new town center, surrounding neighborhoods, and a balanced, redundant, multimodal transportation network. After planning, approving, and permitting thousands of new homes, welcoming thousands of new residents into Clarksburg, the Clarksburg community has been left to find its own way by the county due to a lack of critical multimodal transportation infrastructure that was to support the new corridor city. These projects included the corridor city's transitway, the I-270 corridor improvements, which is still finding its way, the Mid-County Highway Extension, or M83 project that was canceled by this council recently, the extension of Observation Drive between Clarksburg and Germantown, which I last looked in current CIP, is regrettably funding for it is in 2032. As if some way the council can find a way to get that project moved forward, whether it's through participation, move it forward, that'll be really great and help the community. And of course, the Maryland 355 BRT project, which has been offered as an alternate to M83, which is, again, probably lacking funding. So given out the above background and realities in support of the Clarksburg Gateway Sector Plan, the Coalition for Up County urges the council to retain all transportation recommendations included in the draft plan approved by the Planning Commission, notably retaining I-270 exit 70. The exit is critical for the viability of the sector plan and the comp center and other properties in the area, and to more generally provide transportation options for the residents in Clarksburg. The second is the coalition also urges the council to fully fund design and construction of Observation Drive extension within the earliest CIP possible. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank council for funding improvements. This is sort of separate, but you're all here, but I wanted to mention it. Thank the council for funding improvements at the Ovid Hazen Wells Recreational Park, which will finally facilitate relocation of the historic Herschel's Pullman carousel to Clarksburg at its intended home. I know you were in the planning board. Advocate for speedy capital funding of the design and construction of Clarksburg Library. I know we had a big effort for it, but seems to be stuck. Hopefully that get moved forward quickly. I'll stop there. Thank you again. Appreciate it.
For the love about the carousel. You're not Francois.
I am. She's under the weather. Yes, I am Jennifer Wiggins. Good evening, Council President Fanny Gonzalez and members of the council. I am Jennifer Wiggins of the law firm of Bregman, Burbert, Schwartz, and Gilday, presenting the testimony of Francoise Carrier because she's under the weather. We represent the owners of the Lithicum family property, the second largest development parcel in the sector plan area. The planning board draft recommends the property for residential development and the much-needed extension of Observation Drive, which is planned to run through the Lithicum property. The Lithicums support the planning board draft with some minor language changes and corrections described in written testimony by the Lithicums and J&P Avanti, who you also have heard from this evening. The Lithicum family is deeply involved in Maryland agriculture and has been farming in Montgomery County for the last 150 years. This property is their last landholding in Clarksburg, and they have decided to sell it to focus their farming activities on land within the agricultural reserve. The Clarksburg property is under contract for sale to J&P Avanti. As longtime owners of this property, the Lithicums would like it to make the maximum possible contribution to housing in Clarksburg, while also facilitating a vital transportation link by connecting Observation Drive from Germantown to West Old Baltimore Road. Because the Lithicums are still actively farming the property,
they are familiar with the inadequacies of the local transportation network. The fastest, most economical way for the county to acquire the land for the section of Observation Drive that runs through the property is redevelopment of the property, because redevelopment will trigger dedication of the necessary right-of-way. That redevelopment and its timing depends to a great degree on how well the sector plan supports the proposed JMP Avanti development project. You'll be hearing from proponents of a 200-foot residential setback from I-270. The planning board considered that idea, received extensive detailed briefings in favor of it from the planning staff, deliberated at length, and made a considered decision not to recommend such a large setback. The planning board decided in favor of a sector plan that balances housing development with other public needs and avoids imposing stricter development limitations on Clarksburg than are common in other areas of the county. Master plans carry significant weight and are a key element in the review of development applications. When master plan language lacks flexibility, it can constrain development projects in ways that hamper their ability to meet the county's broader goals, such as promoting housing. The successful implementation of a master plan depends on the intersection between what the applicable guidelines and requirements allow and what the market supports. Hamper their ability to meet the county's broader goals. We believe the planning board struck the right balance, and thank you.
Thank you. Something happened to the audio. I'm gonna call the next set of groups. I understand that Michelle Warris is not gonna testify, so I'm not gonna call her. So I have Paul Song, Livia Gomez, Margaret Schultz, Jason George, William Roberts, Susan Soderberg. And we're gonna start with Mr. Paul.
Good evening, council and citizens of Montgomery County. My name is Paul Sung, and joining with me today is my mother in the far back row. Our family owns about 50 acres of land here in Montgomery County. I wanted to speak today because we're interested in understanding what development opportunities may exist, particularly for projects like renewable energy, such as solar or potentially data infrastructure. Our land is currently zoned agricultural, and it's near existing Pepco power lines, which we understand may be relevant for certain types of development. We're not here with the proposal today, just really hoping to learn more about what the county's long-term vision is, what processes would be involved, and whether projects like this is something the county is open to exploring. I also want to share that our family genuinely wants to contribute back to this community. If development regulations were ever adjusted, we will want to give back through tax revenue, local investment, or other contributions that support the county and people who live here. And that's one of the main reasons that I am standing here today. So I want to share this publicly so that if there are any developers, planners, or county staff who think this might be a good fit, I would be happy to start that conversation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Livia Gomez.
Hello and good evening. My name is Livia Gomes. I live in Clarksburg and I go to Rocky Hill Middle School. There are no streetlights along Frederick Road, and I need to take that road daily to get to and from school. There are some places that are very dark along the path. At my school, after-school clubs end at 4:30, and recently I was in a drama club. After the school clubs ended at 4:30, and recently after the club ended, it was already getting dark outside. I had to call my parents to pick me up because it didn't feel safe to walk without seeing what's around me. When I had to walk after the drama club, it was already dark outside. I couldn't see cracks, inclines, tree roots, puddles, or patches of ice on the ground, which makes it dangerous. Not being able to scan my surroundings makes it hard to walk, much less get a better sense of my surroundings. Cars drive pretty fast on Frederick Road, and if they don't see me, which they often turn before looking and crash, I can get hurt. When they drive with bright headlights, my eyes quickly adjust to that level of light, and everything feels darker than before. I also can't see if there are people around me. If someone's following me, I would like to know. A lot of cars on Frederick Road don't respect crosswalks. If they don't see me, I can get run over. Having lights on the sidewalk would benefit our community because kids could walk home, people could walk their dogs, and neighbors could do evening walks and feel safe. We need the lights so people can see where they're going and cars can see everything that's around them. To wrap it all up, we need lights along the sidewalk on Frederick Road to keep everyone safe and happy. It's better for our community and everyone around it. I'm excited for all the new biking opportunities in the Gateway Sector Plan, but having a lit up bike path on Frederick Road can happen now. Please put up lights along Frederick Road. I thank you for your time.
Thank you, Olivia. That was great. Ms. Margaret?
Yes, good evening. I'm Margaret Shope, and I'm speaking on behalf of the TAME Coalition. On page 1 of the draft Gateway Plan, the executive summary lists building 2 new roads that do not exist, and it fails to mention transit alternatives of any kind in this opening statement. Transit alternatives can be found on page 37 of the sector plan. It recommends that public transit will be built after Observation Drive is completed, which is at least in 2030. Again, the decision for the council to prioritize building 2 new roads first and not to prioritize expanding transit alternatives on existing roads. The draft plan cites using Thrive 50 and the 1994 Clarksburg Master Plan. In Thrive 2050 lists transit as its top priority and says the county should stop proposing new 4-lane roads in master plans. This is the Thrive words, not mine. And to give a lower priority to construction of new 4-lane roads. Thrive refers to the 64 Wedges and Corridor Plan that says an effective system of transportation must include rapid transit. Otherwise, the mental frustrations of congested highway travel will take its toll. We are there. The topic of public transit is written big and bold in county documents. It is written big and bold in campaign literature with photos. What is happening on the ground in the Up County does not match the advertisement on paper. The County Council voted in late July unanimously to fund the completion of the comprehensive study of travel needs and master plan transportation capacity from Clarksburg to Montgomery Village corridor as required by the Master Plan of Highways. Now, I support the question that I heard on the council. Where are those transit alternatives? Where are the transit alternatives in the draft Clarksburg sector plan? They are missing. The TAME Coalition is working in partnership with our allies in recommending immediate transit expansion to extend Route 101 Extra from the Lake Forest Transit Center to Clarksburg and to stay on 355. As the Clarksburg sector plan is now written, it is too focused on building new roads, and it shows the continued theme of disregard for building a stronger transit system for the residents of the Up County. Therefore, the TAME Coalition opposes the current draft of the Clarksburg sector Gateway sector plan. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Mr. Jason George?
Thank you to the council for being here, and I want to thank the planning board staff who was on this, who really took a lot of input from the community, and I think we got somewhere in explaining how this part of the county is different, especially in Clarksburg. One of my concerns is that Clarksburg is not a quote-unquote complete community. What is missing from this area is primarily jobs. People here commute a long, long way to get to jobs. They commute to Virginia, they commute down county, they commute to DC. There aren't many jobs in this area on which you can support yourself and live in Montgomery County. What this plan does is in the next 20 years, it dumps another 9,000 people into Clarksburg, and it sounds like that is going to happen fast. But what's missing are jobs. We're warehousing people, we're not housing people up here. We're also playing catch up with infrastructure and community resources in this part of the county. Clarksburg High is 20 years old. I don't think there's ever been a time it hasn't had a portable. Further, the school boundary study depends on Damascus High School having another 700 seats. That's not going to happen for about another 5 years. But the development in Clarksburg can start as soon as you approve this plan. There needs to be a phased implementation to take account for the lack of school seats that this plan, that is an assumption of this underlying plan. Also, we're going to be midway through, most of the way through this master plan timeline, which extends out to 2045 before the major infrastructure, the road infrastructure is built, including Observation Drive, and including any bus rapid transit. And I think that it's a lot of the assumptions on which the things that are going to be here aren't necessarily going to be here for the residents when this new growth comes into effect. I'd also encourage the council to learn from history where there has been problems with the width of residential roads where emergency vehicles can't get through, and to ensure that any development has more than one ingress egress for emergency vehicles. As we're seeing in other parts of the county, including Damascus, there is development that only has one mode of egress, and that is a problem for congestion. It creates more danger on roadways because traffic spilling out into congested roadways. I mean, I think other people have already testified tonight even about how even along 355 there are not enough streetlights, there's not enough light, and people are, especially in the morning, are going to school or to work in the dark, and that's rush hour, and that is the major only thoroughfare through Clarksburg. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Mr. William Roberts.
Good evening. Good evening, council members, and welcome back to Clarksburg. I'm Will Roberts. I live in the Aurora Hills neighborhood where I serve on our HOA. I'm also a member of the Clarksburg Neighbors Alliance, but tonight I'm here speaking as an individual to share my thoughts on the Clarksburg Gateway Sector Plan. There's a lot to appreciate, I think, in the plan, but I'm not sure that it strikes the right balance between calling for greater densities for residential uses and providing for the commercial and recreational uses that my neighbors and I have been asking for a long time. And don't get me wrong, I applaud the inclusion of some of the housing, and do strongly believe that we need more housing types around the county, housing of all types. I'm sure on your recent tour around Clarksburg, you saw we have duplexes and stacked townhouses, et cetera. So that's not necessarily the issue up here. The issue is, as you've heard some folks speak to before, the balance between that density, the housing density, and the lack of infrastructure, of road infrastructure, of school infrastructure. And we want to make sure that this plan, if implemented, does not just make Clarksburg a community of more homes with no amenities and no infrastructure, just to hit a magic housing number, which is necessary and important. But, in the plan, it calls for, I think the number is 4,000 new residential units if the max allowable density is realized. What is the impact going to be on our roads, on our schools? As you just heard my seatmate here speak about the boundary study. In every option of the boundary study right now, Clarksburg's kids are stuck in a bunch of split articulations being shipped all around the up-county. What is this plan going to do for that and for the residents that live here already? Is it going to make it better? Is it going to make it worse? The Aurora Hills community is 1,300 plus homes. Cabin Branch is 1,600 plus homes. We're talking about 4,000. That's a lot. It's double those communities, right? And so there's also a lot of housing development already going on in our community. And so what's not being developed, again, is that road infrastructure and those amenities that we need. The grocery store, as you know, is coming. I saw the picture of you all visiting the dirt mound that is to be the grocery store. The library is on track, and we're fighting for that. But we need more partnership for the rest of that infrastructure that is going to make us a fully complete community. The housing, yes, but the recreation, the commercial space, and the balance. On transportation, that's been spoken to already, totally support the establishment of the new trails and paths, the integration with BRT. I think Observation Drive needs to be completed, must be completed. It's necessary. I understand that this council has been supportive of that, and I hope the next council will be as well, to keep that on track. And I appreciate that the planning department did listen to the community about keeping the I-270 interchange. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Susan Soderberg.
Hello, I am Susan Cook-Soderberg, and I am a historian with a master's degree in American Studies from George Washington. Now, years ago, my husband and I lived in Old Town Alexandria, and we had a neighbor by the name of Marion Van Landingham. Marion was an artist, but she was also recently elected to the city council. Now, the city of Alexandria had a problem. They had a building that was called a white elephant. It was a torpedo factory, and they couldn't tear it down because it was so well reinforced to withstand bomb blast from inside. So Marion had an idea. She had a vision to make it into a workshop space for artists and a showcase for artists. And now that's what it is, and it's the center of the waterfront and Alexandria. Now, the ComSet Laboratories building has many possibilities. It could be a science museum, a school, and maybe even an artist's workshop and showroom. If a decision is not based on how much it will cost, but on what it can do for the residents. Now, the Clarksburg Gateway Sector Plan, what is it a gateway to? It is a gateway, as planned now, to houses. It is a bedroom community, a bedroom development, not a modern vision of post-World War II Levittown, except without the yards. It has the essentials of a town, schools, parks, hopefully a library, and a community center, but it is not a community. What makes a community? A variety of people from all different cultures. What makes them come together into a community? Something they can all identify with. Something that makes their town different. Something that they can be proud of. This is what makes a community. Now, ComSet is of national significance, an example of space age-inspired architecture. It's eye-catching right on I-270. It could make Clarksburg a destination. It could give jobs to people who live in Clarksburg. The county should take this from the hands of the developer, and county should make something of this building which will make Clarksburg a community. Be on the right side of history. Do you want to be remembered as a county council with imagination and a vision for the future? Or do you want to be remembered as the county council that allowed for the destruction of a national treasure? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm gonna go for the next group of people testifying. I have Ms. Beth Wolf, Ms. Roberta Steinman, Mr. John Parrish, Mr. Bob Elliott, Ms. Eileen McGuckian, and Ms. Jeannie Barnes. Please say your name on the top of your testimony. They'll appreciate it. And we can start with Ms. Beth. Is she? Yeah, can you please start? Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Beth Wolf, and I'm a resident of Clarksburg. And tonight I'm speaking on behalf of Clarksburg Church, where I serve as pastor, and our community placemaking space, the Clarksburg Yard, both of which are located in the Upper Coolbrook neighborhood. Our mission is simple: to love our neighbors. Several years ago, we realized that one of the greatest ways to do that here was to create a place where residents could connect and be known and belong. Because in Clarksburg, that kind of space largely does not exist. For that reason, we are genuinely excited about much of the Gateway Sector Master Plan. It aligns closely with the future we hope to work for in our community. Additionally, the new zoning of CRT in the Upper Coolbrook neighborhood allows us to develop our property as a small-scale commercial to support the community engagement that we have already begun. However, there is one critical amendment that is needed: a community recreation and aquatic center. The draft mentioned the needs for this 7 times. This is not new information. In fact, the county's recreation facility development plan for 2010 to 2030 identified Clarksburg as the highest priority location for a recreation and aquatic center in the county. And yet 16 years later, Clarksburg still has nothing. Meanwhile, lower priority projects identified in the same plan have been completed. North Potomac Rec Center opened in 2016, East County and Silver Spring opened in 2024, but Clarksburg remains unserved. And all this plan did to aid this effort was simply say we support a recreation center, but someone else has to pick a place and somebody else is going to have to pay for it. I understand that land acquisition and financing are complicated, but after 16 years, this is no longer just complicated. This is a pattern of complicity in acknowledging Clarksburg needs and then denying it. So here are some concrete, realistic recommendations. The rec center should be located within this plan, providing regional and equal access for the residents on both sides of 270. A location within walking distance of Clarksburg High School and Rocky Hill Middle School is ideal, as our students currently have very few out-of-school options. The ComSat property would be an excellent, ideal location. If land acquisition for that property are a concern, the county already owns land that would work. The Linthicum East site. While this is reserved for a future school, the plan states that no school is needed even at maximum build-out. If the future school capacity is a concern, MCPS already owns multiple future school sites as of the October 25 MCPS CIP, including 65 acres in Damascus and 17 acres in Poolsville. Both areas already have or will soon have rec centers. So please don't pass the buck again. Please put a rec center in the plan now. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Roberta Steinman.
Good evening. My name is Archie Steinman. I am on the board of Friends of 10 Mile Creek and Little Seneca Reservoir, but I'm speaking as an individual tonight. I want to talk about three elements that influence the health of streams and the health of the environment: forest preservation, water quality, and imperviousness. DEP data for the Little Seneca Creek watershed, where the Clarksburg plant is located, show that between 2017 and 2023, Little Seneca watershed had the greatest increase in the percentage of impervious surface of any watershed in the county. Between 2008 and 2023, both forest cover and tree canopy in the Little Seneca watershed declined by several percentage points. Stream conditions in the Clarksburg SPA, where the sector plan is located, have seriously declined since the 1994 Clarksburg Master Plan. At that time, all the streams in the Clarksburg SPA were in good and excellent condition. In 2020, the streams conditions declined to good, fair, and poor. None were rated excellent. The sector plan before you would continue this sad story. The proposed development and road building would increase impervious surface area, remove mature and old-age forests, reduce tree canopy, degrade Little Seneca Creek, which flows through the sector plan area and into Little Seneca Reservoir, and is the largest stream that flows into the reservoir. So here are 4 specific recommendations to correct this situation to ensure that this plan safeguards streams, forests, and halts their further deterioration. Number 1, conserve the remaining 285 acres of forest within the sector plan area. Nearly all these forests are state-designated priority urban forests. Forests that the state has considered priority for retention and protection, including 4 priority urban forest groves on the 200-acre ComSat property where development pressure is the greatest. Number 2, utilize existing roads. Avoid construction of new roadways through forests, parks, streams, stream valleys, and wetlands. In particular, eliminate the 2 most damaging roads. Number 1, the I-270 interchange. It is the most environmentally damaging alternative for access to the sector plan and would destroy 11 acres of forests, streams, and wetlands. And eliminate the northward extension of Observation Drive. Its environmental impacts are extreme. It would cross Little Seneca Creek, cut through and destroy upland priority urban forests, cross floodplains, traverse wetlands and steep slopes, and would sever both the Little Seneca and North Germantown Greenway Stream Valley parks. And all of this would seriously degrade Little Seneca Creek, which flows through the sector plan area and into the reservoir. Number 3, preserve additional land through parkland dedication and conservation easements in order to enlarge the stream buffers and to protect the water quality along all the waterways in the sector plan area. And number 4, adopt stronger SPA safeguards like the ones used in the 10 Mile Creek SPA, which increases the stream buffers to 200 feet and mandates an 80% open space requirement. Montgomery Planning and County Council have an opportunity to protect our forests and waters by putting in place strong requirements that will prevent further degradation of our vital and irreplaceable environmental treasures.
Thank you. Mr. John Parrish.
Good evening. I'm John Parrish, speaking on behalf of the Friends of 10 Mile Creek and Little Seneca Reservoir. Many of our members reside in the reservoir watershed. We own land along 10 Mile Creek and act as guardians of the creek and the lake. We have participated in the sector plan process for the last 2.5 years. The sector plan lies within the Clarksburg Special Protection Area created in 1994. In 1998, the countywide stream protection strategy, as RG said, rated all the streams in the SPA as good and excellent with a good overall rating. Today, DEP rates the same streams in good, fair, and poor condition. And the overall SPA rating declined from good to fair. This is troubling because the stated mandate of the SPA is to protect and maintain high-quality or sensitive water resources. Clearly, the SPA is not being protected by current standards. To protect water quality in the sector plan area, we urge you to implement measures used in the 10 Mile Creek SPA, such as 200-foot stream buffers, strict forest preservation requirements, as well as setting open space preservation requirements to limit impervious cover. Water quality in the SPA will continue to worsen unless you do something to strengthen the protections. We are also troubled by planning board actions taken after the public hearing to undermine key recommendations in the staff draft plan. Our first concern is the board calling for the I-270 interchange despite staff's recommendation against it due to lack of travel time gains, severe environmental impacts, and the unlikelihood of it ever getting funded. We agree with staff and ask that you eliminate the new interchange from the plan. A second concern is the planning board's action to weaken language about protecting priority urban forest. Staff called for maximizing the retention of on-site trees and vegetation, especially on properties within the priority urban forest areas. But the planning board added language to protect these areas only where practicable and consistent with envisioned development in the plan area. This essentially means that forests will only be protected if they do not get in the way of developers' plans. We ask that you require full protection of priority urban forest. Ample acreage already exists on the open fields of the ComSat and Linthicum properties to accommodate new development without destroying any forest cover. A third concern is the board's elimination of staff's 200-foot residential building setback from I-270. Numerous studies show harm to human health from highway exhaust extending much further than 200 feet. We ask that you reinstate staff's sensible recommendation. This will allow for more trees to be planted to filter noise and air pollution and to provide water quality benefits. We have so many more concerns in our written testimony that we hope you will take to heart to safeguard the streams feeding the reservoir. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Mr. Bob Elliott?
Good evening. My name is Bob Elliott. I'm the CEO of River Falls Investments, the owner of the 204-acre ComSat property. I grew up in Montgomery County. I'm raising my family here, and I have a long-term stake in making this plan right. Let me be clear. We support the plan. It has been a long and at times contested process, but the planning board produced a sound blueprint for the future of Clarksburg. We appreciate the work of the planning staff, the board, and the community at arriving at a balanced and realistic framework. We share the county's goal for Clarksburg Gateway to become a complete community with jobs, housing, retail, parks, and transit. The ComSat site represents 70% of the developable land and is one of the last large unified properties along the I-270 corridor, with scale and location needed to compete for major employers. It is a rare opportunity for a transformative investment. In September 2025, the county's own economic development leadership made this very point to the planning board. Lori Boyer-Babb, a director at MCEDC, testified as to the importance of protecting the economic viability of our site, calling it the only one of its kind. She made clear that if Montgomery County expects to have a real seat at the table when Fortune 100 companies are making site selections, we cannot allow this site's potential to be compromised. Jared Smith, MCEDC's new president and CEO, submitted a new letter to you just today. Our request is simple. Do not reopen fundamental debates. Preserve the planning board's sound judgment on several critical items. First, we concur with the recommendation of both preservation staff and the planning board that the ComSat building should not be designated historic. Studies prepared by the county and ownership both demonstrate that the building has no viable path to retaining it economically. Second, the board made the right call on retaining the I-270 interchange. It attracts, if you want to attract a major life science or commercial tenant, direct highway access preserves marketability. It reduces pressure on local roads and avoids compromises that undermine walkability and transit. Third, the board wisely resisted overburdening the sector plan with layers of requirements that consume land and limit flexibility. The board proposed approaches to green cover, parks, and setbacks from I-270 all work. Keep them as is. We have submitted targeted edits to the ComSat neighborhood's specific recommendations to ensure flexibility, not lower ambitions. Improved language would allow our site to evolve as an employment campus, a mixed-use center, or both, depending on market conditions. Finally, I urge the council to support an economic partnership framework equal to the scale of this opportunity, using tools like a TIF or a state-county partnership to close feasibility gaps and ensure that the plan creates jobs, grows the tax base, and delivers lasting value. We support the board's draft and the direction it sets. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. McCakian?
Yes, thank you. That's good. Good start. So I'm Eileen McGuckey, and I'm president of Montgomery Preservation, and I'm speaking as a historian who helped write our county's preservation ordinance and served as the first HPC chair. Some of you recall our new interstate in the 1950s. It was soon dotted with federal agencies like the Bureau of Standards and AEC, followed by bursts of residential subdivisions and new commercial centers. It is no accident that entrepreneurs purchase property visible from the new highway to announce their presence at ComSat. Only a few landmarks remain from Clarksburg's first 200 years. Designated now are some sites of local importance, but none match the national and international significance of ComSat. In the last 20 years, ComSat has been identified as significant by architects, researchers for the Maryland Historical Trust Modernism Study, National Register of Historic Places, 2 unanimous HPCs, and currently by citizens and professionals. In 1979, the county began identifying the best of every era in our history, and the preservation process has been tested and found to be sound. Note that owner approval is not a criterion for historic designation, nor should it be. Designation doesn't guarantee survival, but failing to officially recognize a unique structure is not good. ComSat meets the majority of criteria required for the council to approve its designation. ComSat is truly extraordinary. When it opened in 1969, it followed a remarkable decade after Sputnik and Voyager and the beginnings of satellite communication in a partnership of the private ComSat and the quasi-public Intelsat. ComSat helped spark the growth of our technology corridor. Conducted here were research and implementation of real-time international voice communication, live international broadcast TV, and video conferencing. Design of the ComSat building was as modern as the nature of the global communication industry. Cesar Pelli became a prominent architect and remained proud of ComSat for the rest of his career and life. It's not difficult to imagine ComSat taking on new life. Creative uses have been found for special buildings everywhere. Next steps are for the owner, neighbors, interested users, and public officials together to plan a future here. Keep in mind Silver Theater and Shopping Center, National Park Seminary in Forest Glen, and Grusendorf Log House in Germantown. Each was designated over the owner's objection, and all now tell community success stories. Survival will be enhanced by financial incentives at county, state, and national levels. The owner need not reuse the entire building. Save only the iconic Cesar Pelli section and build around it. Adapt it for a new use. Incorporate its history into the experience of residents, workers, and visitors. What an opportunity. ComSat is the most important property in Montgomery County to represent our national role in the advancement of science, engineering, and technology and our pace in modern architecture.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Jeannie Barnes?
Thank you. For the record, I'm Ginny Barnes, and I'm speaking on behalf of Conservation Montgomery. Since our founding, Conservation Montgomery has consistently supported the preservation of 10 Mile Creek, Little Seneca Reservoir, and tributaries to Little Seneca Creek. During the many iterations of planning for Clarksburg as a compact community,
the importance of protecting water quality has been the overriding priority. To do so requires limits on impervious surfaces, adequate forests to absorb runoff, and wetland protection. Stormwater management alone is not enough. We know that. Clarksburg is a special protection area because that is the purpose of SPAs. This sector plan is located within a designated SPA. How can standards of protection be maintained with the loss of large forest areas? It cannot. And as a backup drinking water supply, the reservoir and creeks emptying into it must have a support system to assure water quality standards remain high. Despite significant attention to this concern when large-scale planned development began, streams in the area are already showing decline. They no longer support the diversity that we're once known for. As a path of protection, the state of Maryland considers the forested tracts in the sector plan to be priority urban forest. Maryland even provides guidelines to achieve these protections. So why is Montgomery County looking to destroy and/or bisect these vital forests? This plan resembles the M83 dilemma you recently settled, in that you concluded the cumulative impact of losing so many invaluable natural resources is not worth any individual benefit. The same is true here. We fully support the detailed comments provided by Friends of 10 Mile Creek and Little Seneca Reservoir, and we hope you will too. And I've included their major asks from their testimony in my own. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'm going to call on the next panel, Mr. Casey Anderson, Mr. Stephen Robbins, Gary Unterberg, Scott Knutson, Christine Ann McDermott, and Lee Levin. If we can please start with Mr. Anderson. Go ahead.
To turn the mic on? Are we on? Okay. I'm Casey Anderson. I want to talk about two aspects of the Planning Board recommendations that River Falls supports. The first being the parks recommendation. Instead of a large 8 to 12 acre park right in the middle of the site that would have been extremely disruptive to any major economic development opportunity, a large tenant, we proposed, and the Planning Board agreed, a distributed set of smaller parks which not only allow River Falls to make more efficient use of the site, but also deliver better parks and better amenities for the community. That's because we can locate things like skateboarding, dog parks, pickleball, the sort of things that nobody wants to have right outside their bedroom window. We can distribute them in parts of the property that won't bother anyone, and also connect them with bike and pedestrian infrastructure in a way very similar to what the Parks Department is doing in Long Branch, connecting smaller parks into an integrated whole. Second thing I want to address is the interchange. You've heard Mr. Elliott talk about the importance of the interchange to attracting a major commercial tenant. And the other part of this, which I think is counterintuitive, but it's true, is that the interchange is actually helpful to walkability and transit. Why is that? Because with the interchange, there's access in and out of the neighborhood directly from the interstate without the need to drive through through the local street network in order to reach your destination. So that means you can relieve pressure on the local road network, which is important because the plan calls for bus rapid transit to take dedicated lanes on Observation Drive. That would be extremely difficult if all the traffic has to go on, from the automobile traffic has to go on the local street network. The other part that's important in this respect is that if the planning department's own traffic analysis shows that in order to make the traffic work without the interchange, they'll need channelized right turns and wider intersections in order to accommodate the traffic. That's not good for pedestrians and walkability, and it also undercuts the ability for people to walk to the transit stops. So I will give you 55 seconds of your life back, but we look forward to participating in the work sessions. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Robbins.
President Fani Gonzalez and members of the council. My name is Steve Robbins, and I am speaking today in support of the Planning Board's public hearing draft for the Clarksburg Gateway Sector Plan. I support the comments made by River Falls Investment LLC, the longtime owner of the former ComSat property. I also am a lifelong resident of Montgomery County and care deeply about the outcome of this plan. I commend the Planning Board and its staff for transmitting an excellent plan. The focus of my testimony tonight is on historic preservation. I support the board and the technical staff's, including preservation staff's, recommendation not to designate the ComSat property as historic. It is a correct decision based on solid analysis, data, and studies. Montgomery Planning hired reputable professionals to conduct planning, architectural, and economic feasibility studies to assess whether ComSat could be adaptively reused. Staff, along with their expert consultants HRNA and Fu Wilmers and River Falls specialists CBRE and RCLCO, all concluded that the ComSat property should not be designated as historic. The expert analysis and studies clearly show that there is no feasible scenario in which the ComSat building can be adaptively reused, and that the designation would completely undermine and frustrate the county's planning, economic, and environmental objectives. The building size, specialized design, and deteriorated condition make reuse extraordinarily and prohibitively expensive. The property has been vacant for many, many years, harming the property owner, Montgomery County, and Clarksburg, and any historic designation would impede planning and development efforts for the site. This vacancy is not due to the lack of effort in trying to repurpose the building. Present and past owners spent significant time and money attempting to adaptively reuse the building with no success. Montgomery County has missed out on roughly 20 years of economic benefits, such as increased commercial and residential real estate taxes, new residents, jobs, economic growth, and the development of more mixed-use areas in the upper part of the county. The loss is huge. The planning board and its staff and preservation staff recognize that there is no viable path forward with such a designation, and in a responsible manner move forward with that decision as reflected in the plan. I urge the council to fully support the planning board's draft plan, which includes the important decision not to designate the ComSat property as historic. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you. Mr. Gary Unterberg.
Good evening. My name is Gary Unterberg with Rogers Consulting. Testifying in support of the draft Clarksburg Gateway Sector Plan. I've worked on ComSat property with Elcor and with River Falls for over the last 25 years, and also collaborating with the community and other property owners to make Clarksburg a great place to live and work. It's time to move forward with the draft plan as recommended by the Planning Board. This well-crafted plan encourages economic growth and flexibility while protecting the area's environmental and neighborhood assets. It builds on the '94 plan while looking towards the future. Green cover is an ambitious yet flexible approach. A central strength of the Planning Board's draft is the approach to green cover on the ComSat site. The board recommended 35% green cover on the development portions of the property, and ambitious standard matching or exceeding requirements elsewhere in Montgomery County. The board made a thoughtful decision how green cover should be measured and delivered. Trees within the conservation easements, parks, and along streets should count toward the 35%. This ensured trees would not be pushed toward the margins or isolated, but instead would be integrated into where people live, work, and play. The result, a substantial tree canopy and green infrastructure throughout development areas, plus extensive forest already protected within Stream Valley and along property edges. This plan delivers green cover where it matters most, within the heart of the neighborhood, while preserving the 40-plus acres of existing Stream Valley and forest in the stream buffer. Strong environmental standards. These environmental recommendations supplement strict requirements already in place for Clarksburg. By law, Clarksburg is a special protection area, which requires additional water quality and stormwater management standards. Forest conservation requirements are and do apply by law. Some of the key benefits of the plan environmentally are Observation Drive has been relocated. It's been removed from the Stream Valley buffer on the ComSat property, which gives back approximately 3 to 4 acres of forest and Stream Valley buffer that was to be rowed before. There will be a net increase of forest cover. Most upland forests outside the Stream Valley buffer will be either saved or replanted in consideration of the forest conservation law. Most scenarios show future on-site forest, existing plus planted, will exceed the current 50 acres on-site. Customized water quality plan, that's required by the SBA. It'll be tailored to future uses, layout, impervious area, and green spaces, custom per the SBA requirements. The 50-foot buffer along I-270 provides an additional 4+ acres of forest conservation to be planted. Then again, the 35% green cover requirement supplements other environmental protections. This requirement's in addition to or overlaps the existing forest. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Scott Knudsen?
Knudsen, you got it?
Knudsen, huh?
Thank you. I'm here on behalf of the Boyd's Historic Society. I also am the newly elected president of the Boyd's Civic Association, which passes through the Linthicum property, but you'll hear from Lee Levin in a minute, in 5 minutes about that, about their views. We urge the council to designate ComSat as a historic resource and its surrounding spaces. There's no question that it qualifies for designation. The plan even says so. Its impact on Montgomery County and the nation is significantly more, much more significant than the other two also deserving properties that are recommended for designation here. I urge you to read Gwen Wright's written testimony, which in part mentions that there's nothing wrong with more dense housing development as long as it doesn't replace world-class architecture. The only argument I've heard against designation is financial. The County Commission feasibility study essentially concludes that the only viable use on the entire sector plan is townhouses. If we cannot achieve some excellence that's equal to or greater than the ComSat facility, we'd rather not have more cabin branch. If the county council does approve the increased density without requiring adaptive reuse of ComSat, that's essentially a giveaway, because the report mentions that the total profits of this development might be in the neighborhood of $83 million. The costs of the renovation of ComSat would be roughly $28 million. $55 million profit does not sound like a hardship to the Boyd's Historic Society. Demolishing the only notable place in Clarksburg to build more high-density suburbs is short-sighted and bad planning. And the draft plan suggests if it is demolished, one should mitigate that loss by preserving some open space, documenting the building, and adding interpretive signage. Those aren't real mitigation efforts. Imagine, don't worry about the east wing. We've saved the ellipse, we've made a nice booklet, and we've added a roadside plaque. Sure, this isn't the east wing, but it's the same message. Nonetheless, if the county council does not choose to protect ComSat, we ask that you do require superb excellence of planning and design at this property. We want something, if we can't have ComSat, we want something better, something amazing, something that will draw people from around the country to see what a great job we've done here. And if Mr. Elliott can bring a Fortune 100 employer to this site, let's talk. If we're going to get more cabinet branch, no thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Christine Ann McDermott?
Yes, hi. I'm likely a fish out of water here tonight. Hello. Good? Like that? Yes. Okay. I am definitely a fish out of water here tonight. I did not have a prepared statement. I just wrote it on my knee. What I want to talk about and bring to your attention, I've lived on Clarksburg Road for 35 years when there were less than 2,000 people here. It's country on the other side of 355. I understand the growth and the adjustments that must be made to accommodate change, but there are important issues that are not being addressed. Tonight I heard about environmental stewardship, reducing environmental impact, and preserving Clarksburg's identity are some of the things that were mentioned. But here we have Little Bennett Park, right over the 355 line, and the ag zone beyond that. And that's totally lost in this discussion. I'm sorry to sound harsh, but the Department of Transportation is of no help on this issue. I have 4 years of correspondence that is just ridiculous and no progress. The road is battered. There are dump trucks, full loads going down this 2-lane road, no shoulder, trees right there, all day long for 4 years. The road is beat. There are no white lines on the side. The road is eroding into the park. There are huge ditches off the road, runoff rocks into the park. It's just battered, and this is all trucks. And I know it's a state road, but it's a state park that is in Councilmember Balcom's newsletter, and parks are talked about in everybody's newsletters. And people here tonight, they want them. There are horses crossing there and Mack trucks coming down at 50 miles an hour. Nobody's maintaining it. There are little patch jobs and this and that. I live in the oldest house in Clarksburg. They took 25 feet out of my stone wall. It doesn't matter. We're the quickest path for where they're coming from to wherever they're going, but the road's not made for that. It's just not made for that. And I've talked to Craig Wilson from your office. He saw it, he came, and it just is gonna go on, I guess, some more. And I'm just asking for the possibility of designating these trucks to use 355, 27, 75, roads that can handle them if they're going east-west. This is not a truck road. My neighbors don't want to come out. It's rough. It's dangerous. Somebody's going to get killed. And that, you know, a truck going down that hill is going 50. So that's what I had to say.
Thank you. Mr. Lee Levin?
Hi, I'm Lee Levin, the newly elected Vice President of Boyd's Civic Association. Boyd's is known as home in the country, and it's the county's premier outdoor recreation destination. Those defining characteristics are increasingly threatened by suburban sprawl at our doorstep, sometimes referred as compact development. The Boyd Civic Association represents the residents of 20841 zip code, which extends east of I-270 along West Old Baltimore Road. The Lithicum farm site is within our community. We also want to acknowledge that we regret not having been as engaged in this sector plan process earlier, and we appreciate the council and planning staff for coming to our neck of the woods this week. We have reviewed the plan carefully, and tonight we will focus on 6 points that directly affect Boyd's. First, we support the extension of Observation Drive and Little Seneca Parkway, including the overpass. These connections are long needed and important. Second, we join Boyd's Historic Society and others in asking that ComSat building and its front lawn be designated as historic resource. Third, across the entrance of Black Hill Regional Park, we request a 100-foot forested buffer. The proposed plan allows buildings up to 65 feet tall right at the park entrance, which sends the wrong message at the threshold of one of our most important natural resources. Fourth, we strongly support the plan's recognition of the need for a wildlife crossing of I-270. However, the recommended location of the Little Seneca Parkway overpass is not connected to the natural habitat on either side. We urge instead the wildlife corridors be located where habitat already exists, one near the Little Seneca Greenway at the south end of the plan area and the other near Route 121 at the north end. Fifth, in conjunction with that wildlife corridor, we ask that a natural surface trail be added to connect the Hard Rock Trail in Black Hill Regional Park with the Seneca Valley Greenway, either under or over I-270. Finally, we ask that the Lithicum site be made a true village, separate it clearly from surrounding development by extending the green buffer along West Old Baltimore Road. Lower the scale and the density by reducing the height and the FAR, and mandate, rather than merely suggest, a mix of housing types to prevent another townhouse development. We support a village of cottages, courts, single-family homes, and meaningful yards and multiplexes, but only if the less dense forms are required, not optional. Thank you for your time and for your consideration. These recommendations on the behalf of Boyd's community.
Thank you so much. The next in-person and final panel for in-person, then we have virtual, is Ishan Cifuentes, Anoki Cifuentes, Alicia Bloomfield, Zach Wolf, Karen Bordet, and Rachel Wagner. We're gonna start with one of the Cifuentes. Maybe you? You want her to go first? Okay. All right, Mom, you go first. Please state your name right on top, okay? 3 minutes. Go ahead.
Yes, my name is Inoki Cifuentes. I live within the Gateway Sector Master Plan area, and I've been raising my family in Clarksburg for the past 15 years. I'm here tonight to request that this Gateway Sector Master Plan be amended to include a dedicated site for the Clarksburg Community Recreation and Aquatic Center. I'm a parent of 3 children. One is here right now. I have a high schooler, a middle schooler, and an elementary school child. Like many parents, I want my children to be active, engaged, and supported beyond the school day. They participate in sports and programs that support their physical health, confidence, social connections, and mental well-being. We access county recreation programs and sports, and we regularly have to leave our community to do so. We travel to facilities in mid and down county areas, including Wheaton and Silver Spring rec centers. Even without traffic, these trips are at least 35 minutes one way, down 270 and around the Beltway. As a result, our family is often forced into impossible choices. When one child participates, another one unfortunately misses out, and these experiences add up, and sadly leaves them feeling overlooked. A rec center in Clarksburg will certainly make our lives more convenient, support the health and well-being of all residents, greatly improve our quality of life, and move us forward towards becoming a more complete community. The county is already aware of the value and benefits that come with a community as we gain a rec center. And as was previously mentioned, the county's own recreation facility development plan has identified Clarksburg as a top priority for this. The Gateway Sector Master Plan area is perfectly placed at the heart of Clarksburg and the proposed service area. The plan has an abundance of land to support this facility. The omission of a dedicated site in the plan feels like a missed opportunity to follow through on a long-standing commitment, one with significant implications for equitable access for up-county residents. The future Clarksburg Community Recreation and Aquatic Center deserves the same level of planning, clarity, and commitment afforded to other regions of the county. Please make it a core component of the master plan, not as an afterthought or secondary to commercial and residential development. Let's work together to identify a site within the planned area, commit it to the plan, and make it real. Support the people who live here through equity and timely follow-through. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Cifuentes.
Good evening. My name is Ishan Cifuentes, and I am 9th grade at Clarksburg High School. I have lived within the Clarksburg Gateway Sector Plan my entire life, so this community is not just where I go to school, it's my home. Today, I am speaking to you about the importance of adding lights along the Frederick Road bike and walking path. My friends and I walk to and from school every day. We also use this path to get to and from after-school activities and sporting events. Walking is a big part of our daily routine, and for many students, it's our main way of getting around. However, when fall and winter roll around, it becomes much scarier to walk along the path because of how earlier it gets dark. After sporting events or practices, it is often completely dark by the time students are heading home. Walking along an unlit path in the dark makes many of us feel unsafe. Adding lights along this path would make a huge difference. It would make walking and biking safer for everyone, students, families, and other members of the community. With better lighting, many students may feel comfortable walking or biking to school, which could also help reduce traffic. This issue does not just affect current students like me, it also affects future students, including my younger brother and sister, who will one day be walking these same paths. Thank you for listening and considering how lighting can make our community safer for everyone.
Thank you so much. Ms. Bloomfield?
Good evening, council members and neighbors. My name is Alicia Bloomfield, and I'm speaking through the lens of an educator of Montgomery County Public School System, as a mother of a 3 and 4-year-old, and as a proud Clarksburg parent. I am in support of the Clarksburg Gateway Sector Plan with an amendment around the conversation of the land being reserved for a school building, speaking about the Lithicum property. I believe that this property would be best served as a community center. As an MCPS educator, I see every day how learning does not stop after the school bell rings. Children and students grow through art, music, sports, mentorship, sports, and connections. A school serves students through the school hours. A community center serves everyone before school, during school, after school, evenings, weekends, every season and season of life. As a mother of a child headed to kindergarten, I am thinking of not just his classroom, but his whole childhood. Where will he go to play after school? Where will the swim lessons be, the homework help, the activities and events? A community center becomes a second home. It becomes a place where my children, our children, can grow seeing neighbors as family and a community as something they belong to, not just live in. As a Clarksburg resident, I've watched our community grow rapidly, and I absolutely love that. We've seen an explosion of residential properties and new families moving in. I love that as well. Our streets are full of laughter and sometimes snow. Our neighborhoods are thriving, but our shared spaces have not grown at the same pace. Right now, many of us leave Clarksburg just to meet our basic recreational and wellness needs. For example, my mother goes to Frederick County to go to the YMCA for her wellness needs. I too take my children to YMCA in Frederick County for their recreational needs. And I have other friends and neighbors who go to surrounding counties or cities for their recreational and wellness needs. This should not be the reality for our community of our size. For years, for decades, Clarksburg has been waiting. There's been Hope for Library and the Town Center, and now there's Clarksburg Yard, and our community has been patient, sometimes less patient, and we are longing. Clarksburg is longing for more spaces to belong in. Clarksburg is no longer a small developing town. We are a growing multi-generational community. We need a space where grandparents can exercise and teens can be mentored and walk safely on the streets, and where parents can gather and children can explore, and where neighbors can become friends. I respectfully urge you to consider amending the plan so that this land becomes a community center, one that serves not just today's needs, but the future of Clarksburg for generations to come. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Zach Wolf.
Good evening. My name is Zach Wolf, and I have been a resident of Clarksburg since 2016. I am here tonight to express my strong support for the Gateway Sector Master Plan, particularly the proposed bike paths, road improvements, and connectivity investments. I am a dad of 2 girls, and like many parents, I always hoped that they would grow up in a community where they could safely walk or bike with their friends to each other's homes. Unfortunately, the part of Clarksburg where we live has made that impossible due to the lack of connected infrastructure. The proposed improvements in this plan would finally make that dream possible, not just for my family, but for others. Both of my girls attended Clarksburg Elementary School and now attend Rocky Hill Middle and Clarksburg High School. Anyone who has driven Frederick Road during the morning or afternoon peak hours knows how bad the traffic can be. Yet there have been very few alternatives to just simply getting around town. The realignment of Observation Drive onto Gateway Center Drive is a smart and much-needed solution. It will greatly improve connectivity within Clarksburg. I strongly urge you to prioritize this project and move it forward as soon as possible. I am also here to ask you to address a serious and immediate issue on Gateway Center Drive. I know the council recently took a bus tour of the plan area, and it's possible you drove right past this problem without noticing it. You really only notice it when you regularly walk or bike the neighborhood. Gateway Center Drive has many no parking signs along the street, yet just the other day we counted 17 illegally parked trucks on one side and 11 on the other. These are not passenger vehicles. They are box trucks, semi-trucks, and trailers parked blatantly in violation of posted signage. We have called 311 multiple times. Police have ticketed these vehicles. The vehicles have left, but within a week they returned. This cycle keeps repeating with no police action. These trucks make the street difficult to navigate, unpleasant to walk, and dangerous for our children. I understand that the long-term vision for Gateway Center Drive as a town center boulevard will take time and funding, but there must be something that we can do now. This is a fixable problem. Urban planners like Jeff Speck in Walkable City describe low-cost, near-term solutions such as shifting the center lane and installing a 2-way protected bike lane using paint and flexible bollards as a temporary measure. If parking on one side of the street is still desired, meters could be installed with revenue from both meters and enforcement earmarked specifically for Clarksburg community infrastructure improvements. Community development in Clarksburg has taken a very long time. I am asking you to pair the long-term vision of the Gateway Sector Master Plan with leaders and thank you so much.
Thank you. Ms. Karen?
Yes, I'm Karen Burdett. I'm an architect. I'm a seven-year member of the Historic Preservation Commission and a member of MPI. I'm speaking for myself tonight in support of the designation of ComSat buildings and their adaptive reuse to support the community. ComSat is a unique architectural and communications landmark, a shining machine in the garden designed by master architect Cesar Pelli. It is hard to quantify the importance of what ComSat means not only to the county, but to the technology that we use every day. If you use your cell phone, if you use GPS in your car, that all started at ComSat. It is a unique and singular historic landmark in the Mid-Atlantic region. There is nothing else like it. There's nothing else architecturally like it. And ComSat should be designated, should be preserved, and can be adaptively reused for a new purpose. I have seven examples of laboratories and industrial buildings that were adaptively reused into community incubators and centers. I've sat here tonight and listened to many comments, and all the comments talk about lack of infrastructure, lack of community resources as in rec centers or community centers, and ComSat campus is an answer to that. All we ask is that for 34 acres of the 200 be preserved for the ComSat buildings and the view shed down to 270, and the rest of the acreage, the 170 acres, can be used to an adaptive reuse, including an incubator or a community center or a transit hub for a BRT up and down 270, and also the transit hub would serve a bus linking throughout the Clarksburg area. This would solve several of your problems related to recreation, related to community services, and infrastructure, transportation infrastructure. If you demolish ComSat, I'm very concerned that what will happen will be equivalent to the demolition of Penn Station in New York City in 1963. At that point, the residents of New York were so outraged by the loss of that Penn Station, the demolition by its owner, that the protest galvanized the city to enact the landmark law and create a Landmarks Preservation Commission. Because of that, the legal foundation of historic preservation was created, and there are now historic preservation laws and ordinances across the country at federal, state, and local level. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Rachel Wagner?
Yes, hi everybody. I think I'm the last one, so I hope you're listening. Thank you, In person, okay. Rachel Wagner, Clarksburg resident. I've lived here almost 13 years this summer. So I'll start. I submitted this also online, so this is a testimony if you don't catch all of it. While on paper, it sounds nice to have a mixed-use, transit-oriented, and sustainable community project, the diagram that's being presented is showing a large majority of the project being residential. As a Clarksburg resident, we know well the story of developers who run amok, regulated not by the county, who say they're going to support the basic needs of our community, but then they're long gone after they've made their money. Montgomery County has failed Clarksburg residents for decades. I think you heard that multiple times here tonight, and this plan should not be approved the way it is written. Before there are more houses in our community, we should have the infrastructure that not only has been promised in the master plan since 1996, but is becoming vital in the day-to-day lives of Clarksburg residents. I experience it every day. Let me give you a few examples. The library, 25 years. There's always some excuse or study or delay. 25 years. It's kind of embarrassing for our part of the county. Clarksburg finally got a fire department. It took a while with the sewer issues, but we got it and we're very happy. But
We don't have fire hydrants. I don't know if you know this, but that's why we rely on a lot of the volunteer fire departments in our community. Hyattstown will tell you this. If there's a fire on the farm side and they don't bring a truck fast enough, we're screwed. And it's a problem. You're hearing that we don't have streetlights from kids that are going to the schools after school. These are infrastructure issues that we need addressed. There's one grocery store, one. Currently, 30,000 residents, according to the census data, and we have one grocery store. Okay, think about that. It's not always the best quality. A lot of times it's overpicked. They're out of things. It's just the way it goes. Transportation. One lane road. You guys got here, same road. Imagine all the buses, all the parents trying to go to school in the morning. It's a mess. Everybody's telling you, but nobody's listening. And when we're talking about the schools, there's a boundary study. You've heard that mentioned several times. My kids go to school here, Lucy Wagner, 6th grade, and Clarksburg High School, 9th grade. And I'm telling you, it's unfair that we haven't thought about schools with this amount of growth. So the options are telling my kids that are established, doing well, succeeding, that they may be going to different schools in a year or 2 years' time. That's unacceptable, unacceptable. How are they supposed to have great mental health, establish friends? Like this, it's just, nobody's thinking about these issues. We're just making decisions without thinking about how it impacts the people that live here. So, listening.
Thank you. The last three people are virtual. You can see the screen to the right, and we're going to start with Ms. Deborah Sarabia.
My name is Deborah Sarabia. I live in Gaithersburg. I'm an environmental scientist, and I support the ecological health of the Seneca Creek watershed. I support with regards to the master plan, the sector plan, I support the creation of the Colebrook Stream Valley Park. I support the planning staff suggested removal of Robert Taverns Drive and the 355 Clarksburg bypass. I do not support the proposed extensions of Observation Drive, even as slightly relocated away from the stream buffer, or the Little Seneca Parkway or 270 interchange. These are 4-lane highways. They would run over mature hardwood upland and bottomland priority 1 forests. North Germantown Greenway Park, wetlands, floodplains, forest interior dwelling species bird habitats, conservation easements, historic and archaeological sites, 25% steep slopes, and a 500-foot bridge over Little Seneca Creek. Water quality in Little Seneca Creek is already impaired by chlorides and sediment, and this will worsen with the highways. Highways are expensive to build and maintain. They create noise, light pollution, road salt pollution, and trash, lead to wildlife collisions. Alternatively, I suggest the rights of way perhaps could be re-envisioned as non-motorized connectors. This would create more iconic places and resonate at the pedestrian scale. The existing roads, Old Baltimore, Frederick Road, Comset Drive, for example, should be enhanced instead of building new roads. I also support the retrofit and not the demolition of the Pelly Comset building, or explore possibly retaining a section of it. The Historic Preservation Commission recommended historic designation because of its architectural and cultural significance. I think planning and county should follow the experts' recommendations. In the sector plan draft, the writers noted that the sector plan will be considered a success when, among other things, the streams, forests, and other natural areas are protected as development occurs through low impact and sustainable methods, and when historic resources and cultural heritage locations are preserved and celebrated. I ask the county to consider all these factors to ensure the success of the Clarksburg community. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Maureen Mechanic. Go ahead, sir.
Thank you, council members. My name is Maury Mechanic, and some of you may recognize me from a different capacity. I've appeared before you previously on behalf of the Village of North Chevy Chase, speaking on more mundane matters like ZTA 2502. Fortunately, I'm here today on a much more lofty subject, which is the future of ComSat Labs. I'm speaking in the capacity as the president of the ComSat Alumni and Retiree Association, COMARA, which is dedicated, among other things, to preserving the unique legacy of the Communication Satellite Corporation and ComSat Labs to bring the benefits of satellite telecommunications technology to all countries of the world, and thereby promoting greater world peace and understanding as first articulated by President Kennedy in 1961. The case for historic designation, as found by the HPC, is extremely compelling, both in terms of architectural significance, but not surprisingly from my perspective and that of Comara, from the nature and broad-reaching impact of the research and development work that was performed there, and which served as the backbone for all aspects of satellite technology in use today. Indeed, ComSat Labs at its facilities in Clarksburg, Maryland, which is significant, is where the foundation of modern satellite technology was invented and first developed. Virtually all communication satellites we rely on today can trace their technology back to ComSat Labs. And I would say that other than perhaps what happened in Los Alamos during the Manhattan Project, you have never had a greater gathering of scientific knowledge and capabilities in one place than you had at the ComSat Labs building in Clarksburg in the 1970s through the 1990s. I recognize the reality of the world and that preservation of the entire property and building may just ultimately not happen. If that's the case, we were heartened to some extent by the notion of mitigation measures that would be taken, although I think what was proposed is really hopefully inadequate in that regard. One suggestion we have is that at a minimum, the front portico and lobby portion of the building could be preserved, effectively becoming a pavilion for public meeting, public gathering, and also a place where the history and legacy of ComSat Labs could be duly noted. So if there's not a designation, that is certainly something that we think warrants serious consideration. I guess in concluding, what I would like to say is that if we wind up without a historic designation, Comara would really appreciate the opportunity to directly participate in whatever arrangements are made with respect to mitigation and preservation of the ComSat legacy. Thank you.
Thank you. The last speaker is Ms. Amy Presley.
Hopefully last but not least, good evening, Council President Fanny Gonzalez and council members. I am Amy Presley. I have been a resident of Clarksburg Town Center for 23 and a half years. In that time, I have watched over decades all of these issues be talked about, community involvement, planning board, historic preservation over and over. I am in complete support of the work that the planning board and staff have done, the outreach that has taken place, and the plan as they have presented it to you exactly. We have seen the loss of really important economic development opportunities here, including everything related to 10 Mile Creek. We lost the hospital designation. We lost a huge development that was to have been there, that was supposed to be a supporting opportunity for the whole development of Clarksburg, for work and play opportunities. We continue to be bypassed, pardon the pun, by not getting any of the transportation connections. And while I support rapid transit and things of that nature, we need the Observation Drive connection. We need the 270 connection. And I'm sorry, I worked in the ComSat building myself in 1990, 2, 3, and 4. With TTC, which was a telecommunications company. We couldn't even use the rest of the building, even though we had considered possibly purchasing it because of its condition. If you try to re-vet all of the issues that have carefully been vetted by the planning staff and the planning staff's historic division and everyone there, it's going to take more decades because it's been decades, not months of consideration. It would be tragic if you reopen this and then put our last and best economic opportunity back on the table for discussion. I am in complete agreement with the testimonies of Bob Elliott, Cherian Eapen, Casey Anderson, Steve Robbins. We need this development. We need it now. And what we need most of all from you is not to waste time reopening things that have already been debated, carefully vetted and analyzed. And this is the result of that vetting and analysis. We need your support. In Clarksburg Town Center, we're people, we're not trees, but we're dying because we don't have the social opportunities, the work opportunities, the things that were promised to us to help us survive as a whole community. So what I'm begging you to do is to accept the plan as it is, work to find ways to commend what was done at ComSat, but don't take away the last opportunity for us to really get going quickly on something that can benefit Clarksburg. I really appreciate your consideration on that and urge you, please don't reopen all the issues that have been debated for now more than 24 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Presley. And with that, thank you so much to everyone who came tonight and participated. This is why Montgomery County is so awesome, because we have engaging communities. This public hearing is now closed. We are adjourned.